The house is only 8 feet wide, a fact which surprises a lot of people. The house is built right to the ends of the property, and so the inside of the house is narrower. On the main level and in the basement, it's 6 feet, 6 inches, and then upstairs, the widest that it gets is about 7 feet, 3 inches. It was this little 1-story, 8-foot wide house starting from about 1880. So it's been here a very long time. The foundation of the house is very old. I think a lot of people, myself included, are surprised that it wasn't like a new laneway house or an infill house. There has been something that has only been 8 feet wide here for more than a century, which is crazy actually. The entire front and the entire back are all glass, all windows, big skylights on both of them. And so the light just moves throughout the house. And I think that's the house's secret to feeling bigger than its actual dimensions. I've described the house in 2 ways before. I've described that it feels like a boat, in part perhaps because of its dimensions and, clever use of space, but also just because of the sort of wood and the exposed pipes. It gives it a sort of nautical feel. I've also described it before as a treehouse, perhaps because it sort of has this winding staircase that goes up from level to level, but also all of the wood and the way that it's all been sort of fit together like a puzzle. And there are 5 levels to it, and that includes the basement and that includes the attic. Although even on a level, there's sort of sub-levels, but let's say 5. This is the entryway on the first floor where you walk into the house. There's one of the bathrooms in the house. It's very small. And there's also a coat closet. There's lots of stuff in the house that has had a life before it, because I like to find used things from vintage shops and furniture shops and things. And so these shelves, for instance, are an example of that. This radiator cover came from somewhere before it came here. These little seats as well are from a theater somewhere. And then up the middle of the house is a sort of winding stairwell. And also up the middle of the house is this sort of channel where all of the plumbing for the house and the things, there's a central vac and some of the electrical, it all sort of runs up the middle of this house. So that's how it's designed. So this is the kitchen. To me, actually, it often feels like the biggest room in the house, even though it's actually a little bit more narrow than the rooms upstairs. But I think because the ceilings are so high and you look through to the backyard, it just feels bigger than it actually is. And with this use of glass and open space, you're getting the light that's coming down through the open staircase. And as a result, the light sort of travels from different floors, and no matter what room you're in, you're also sort of looking into a different room. It's very thoughtful and very clever. The appliances are a little funny. They're small, but one of the reasons that the appliances have to be small is because, as you may have noticed, the doorways are small. The front door is actually only about 22 inches wide, and everything has to be small enough to come in the door. But otherwise, yeah, this is a pretty basic kitchen. There's a table back here, and then that opens up into the backyard, which is a really nice thing to have in the middle of downtown. So now we're on the second floor of the house. This I call the library because of the books, but what the room actually gets used for more is a dining room. And this is where, more often than not, we'll come up and have dinner here rather than in the little kitchen. Surprisingly, perhaps, behind here is the washing machine. It's actually a washer and a dryer, and so that's just sort of tucked away there. And this room is actually my favorite room in the house. I guess I love the books, but I also like to sit in this chair. The funny story about this chair is when I was moving in here, I hadn't realized that the doors were not normal sized doors. And so this blue chair could not fit in the front door. And so the movers had to tie ropes to it and lift it up over the balcony. I can't ever leave this room because actually it can't fit in this hallway. And so I've had that problem a few times. It's actually not just the door, but sometimes when you get things into the house, then getting it up a winding staircase or through a certain passageway is challenging. So it's made me be very thoughtful about the things that come into the house. So we're still on the second level. We had to go up a few stairs. There's actually no room in this house that you don't go up or downstairs to get into, but I would still consider this the second level. This is the living room. It was hard to imagine sort of having a couch where you weren't just taking up all of the space, but I found this for sale and it sort of worked in a little corner, and so it's been my couch ever since. These are actually Japanese futons, which double as bedding for people who come and stay, but in the meantime I'm using it for a little seat. There's a little balcony off the back, which is quite peaceful. It looks down over the backyard. So this room faces south and the sun pours in because of these windows and the skylight. As a result, this is a good place to dry clothing. This contraption here is something very cool that I found, and it is a vintage clothes dryer. Let me just open it. It's gonna like that. And so it just opens up like that, and then you can hang clothes on it. And then I also have a more sort of modern clothes line, which I've strung from upstairs. That one, that's the bedroom up there, and so to put clothes on the clothesline, you do it from the bedroom. So now we're on the third floor of the house. I don't know what to call this room. It's the room that has a bathtub in it. It's not obvious, but I feel like I should point out there are blinds there. They're just up right now, but they go down, so it's not as open as it looks. This is actually new. Within the last few months it was installed. Otherwise, in this room, there are some sort of random things that I have found. This is like a little clothes hanger wardrobe thing. It does fold in, although there's towels on it, so it won't let me keep it in. This is a box that I actually use as my clothes hamper, but because you're here, I have not left my dirty laundry in it. However, I was just charmed by the banana box and wanted a purpose for it. So we're still on the third floor, had to go up a few stairs, but this is the bedroom. It's not a lot of room for much other than the bed. So it's a queen size bed. And for bedside tables, these are actually bulletin boards that have little things on them that I use for shelves, just because there wasn't room for bedside tables on both sides of the bed. There's a closet back here, and the closet door actually slides over the closet, and then the same door is on one track, and it's also the bedroom door. And through these blinds here that can go up and down, that's how I access the clothesline, and then that's the living room. There is a lot of natural light that comes into this room as well, in particular because of the big skylight there. And there's also a small bathroom here next to the bedroom, just with a sink and toilet. So for such a skinny house, it may seem weird that there are actually 3 bathrooms or 3 toilets. There's one in the basement, there was that one on the main floor, and then there's this one outside the bedroom. It is obviously really convenient because of all of the stairs in the house. So to get up to the attic, there is this spiral staircase, which I think is actually one of the coolest things about the house. This is where my office is. I call it the attic, or it's sort of a loft space. So that's my office, and then the rest of the attic space up here kind of has a mixed purpose. This is my little exercise spot. And then otherwise it's sort of storage. There are shelves here that just have a bunch of miscellaneous stuff, and then this is kind of my expanded closet over here. So now we're in the basement. The basement sort of divided into 2. One half of it is storage, and the other half of it is a bathroom. It's the biggest bathroom in the house. It's the only one that has a shower, and it also has a sink and a toilet. The door is actually sort of clever because it's a narrow hallway. There's no real room for a swinging door, so the door is on a track, and you open the door and it goes in front of the toilet, and then if you're in the bathroom you close the door, and then suddenly you realize there's a toilet behind it. I pieced together a little bit about the history of the house. Basically, there was something, a structure, on this property starting from about 1880. I did also find in a book called The Historical Atlas of Toronto, there's a floor plan of the old one-story house. And there are a few houses that are identified as being substandard, for being too narrow, basically. And this is one of the houses. In the 80s, the owner of the house, who was an architect, at that time applied to the Committee of Adjustments and asked to build the house into what it is today, which is this sort of multi-story building. I think it's 950 square feet. If you include the basement and you include the attic, then it's actually more than 1,400 square feet. Every room you go into, you go up or downstairs. And so if for someone with mobility issues, that would be a real concern. I understand that it wouldn't be for everyone. For me, there's something that I really like about these little compartments or something. I find that very comforting. Even though it is really skinny, so you do have to, think about what can go in a room or what can go through a door or what you can use the space for. Except for the times when I have to try to move some furniture, I don't actually personally mind the width of it. I'm really happy with the house. I wasn't looking to buy a house. It was not on my radar that I was going to buy a house. I owned a condo. And it felt weird because I knew that the owner had been trying to sell this house for a really long time. And so obviously nobody else seemed to have the reaction to this house that I did, but I just thought that it was so neat and that I could really do something that was quite lovely with it. And it still is a work in progress. There's actually lots of things that I would still like to do or still like to think about. But I mean, that's part of the great pleasure of this house for me. It's been a lot of fun getting to sort of do that.